Welcome back to Snapshots of World War II. Sisters explore their grandfather's legacy. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Amanda. In each episode, we follow the 357th Infantry Regiment's Medical Detachment, the same unit our grandfather served during World War II.
Today's episode takes us to a date etched in history, not for what happened yet, but for what loomed on the horizon. It's June 4th, 1944, just 48 hours before D-Day. Europe was holding its breath, and so were the men of the 90th Division.
On that day, the 357th medics left their final staging ground at Sedbury, quite a corner of England that suddenly became the launch pad for history. They boarded their transport ship, not as tourists, but as soldiers preparing to sail into the greatest invasion the world had ever seen, Normandy.
By early June, the massive Allied invasion machine was no longer just planning. It was moving. Over 150,000 troops were preparing to cross the English Channel. Operation Overlord, the code name for the Battle of Normandy, was about to ignite, and every man knew history was about to hinge on what came next.
But for the medics of the 357th, the details were still shrouded in secrecy. Orders were sealed, destinations hidden. The only thing certain was that the waiting, the endless months of drills and staging, was finally over.
It was a march into the unknown, a step that would carry them toward Normandy and into the storm of history. Amanda, what did the minute reports actually say?
June 4th, 1944. Departed Camp Sedbury, 0500 hours. Train movement approximately 30 miles. Boarded ship at 0830 hours, awaiting movement orders.
Let's break that down. Before dawn, at 5 a.m., the men shouldered their packs in silence. Trucks rumbled toward the railhead in the half-light of morning. Every kit bag, every weapon, every medical pouch was checked and rechecked.
William N. McConaughey wrote of this moment in his book Battalion Surgeon. About sunrise Sunday, June 4th, we arose, dressed, ate breakfast, and formed into ranks with full equipment. Then we marched out of camp to the troop train several miles away. A few raindrops splattered down from leaden skies on the long columns of silent soldiers marching thoughtfully toward the streets of Chepstow. A few early risers glanced at the heavily laden troops, but paid little heed to them. The people of Chepstow had long ago become accustomed to comings and goings of American troops at all hours of the day and night. But we knew this was the real thing. Our days of training and practicing were over. Soon, the big show would begin, and we of the 90th Infantry Division were on the first team.
The train ride was short in miles but heavy in weight. 30 miles stretched into an eternity. By 8:30 a.m., they were climbing the gangplank of their transport. The report doesn't give a name, but it was likely one of the great southern ports, Portsmouth, Southampton, or Plymouth. The docks would have been teeming with soldiers, vehicles, and crates of supplies, all converging for something immense.
And then, waiting, hours blending together aboard a crowded ship. The shoreline still visible, the channel just beyond. No turning back now. The next landfall would be France.
The ship was packed to the brim, hammocks strung so close you could feel the next man's breath. Gear piled high in narrow passageways, the smell of oil, sweat, and salt water clinging to everything. Men slept in their uniforms, boots laced, ready to move at a moment's notice.
For the medics, there was no idle time. They'd be crouched over their aid kits, checking morphine syrettes, bandages, and sulfa packets again and again, rehearsing the motions in their minds, bracing for the flood of wounded they knew was coming.
Some soldiers wrote letters home, maybe their last. Others stared blankly at the gray Atlantic, listening to whispered rumors of the invasion, or tried to steal a little sleep with the constant hum of the engines and the rocking of the sea.
And then came the hardest part, waiting. The order to sail never came the first day, or the next. Hours blurred into night, meals into drills, the tension coiling tighter with each sunrise that didn't bring movement.
What Grandpa had been thinking. I mean, he was just 23, sitting on the deck of a ship, waiting to sail into the greatest military invasion of history.
He couldn't picture the beaches yet, or the chaos that awaited. But I imagine he was steady, the way medics had to be, quietly preparing, holding his nerves in check while others around him wrestled with theirs.
He wasn't trained to kill, he was trained to heal. But on D-Day, a red cross on your helmet was no shield. Grandpa would go ashore unarmed, carrying only bandages, morphine, and the hope that mercy still meant something in war.
All across southern England, the 90th Infantry Division, including the 357th Infantry Regiment, was moving into place. Trucks, trains, ships, all feeding into a vast timetable, a master plan so immense that no single soldier could grasp it. They only knew their part, and the moment was almost here.
But then, the weather turned everything upside down. June 5th had been circled on secret calendars as the day, but the channel erupted with high winds and towering seas. Waves slammed against the hull, and the skies thickened and darkened. Eisenhower made the call. The invasion would be delayed by 1 day.
And so the men stayed on board, suspended between anticipation and dread. Hammocks swayed with the storm, and boots thudded softly against the deck as restless soldiers paced. Some prayed quietly, fingers wrapped tightly around their dog tags. Others stared into the steel walls, knowing the invasion wasn't canceled, only postponed. On that night, General Dwight D. Eisenhower addressed the Allied Expeditionary Force. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade, toward which we have striven these very months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hope and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumph of 1940 to 41. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than a full victory. Good luck, and let us beseech the blessing of the Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Imagine hearing these words, knowing that by morning you would be stepping into the unknown. Every sentence carried responsibility, fear, and hope. A reminder that history was happening not in abstract, but in the hearts and minds of every soldier on deck.
To hear the human side of that tension, the anxiety, the anticipation, and the quiet resolve, we turn to someone who lived through it. John Santillo, U.S. Army 237th Engineer Combat Battalion, recorded for the Veterans History Project on May 23, 2012.
After once went by, then it come around May, then we could smell that the invasion was coming near. Because you could tell by all the paratroopers that were coming into England. Paratroopers in the 82nd Airborne. So we seen them in town and all. They knew what they were getting ready for. So it was getting close to June. When the month of June came, the invasion was supposed to be on June the 5th. But when we went across the channel on June the 5th, there was a big storm on the French coast. So what they had to do, they had to cancel the landing because the weather was very bad. So we got halfway across the channel, and the lead boat come up a line with a speaker, returned back to base in England. Landing canceled. So guys said, oh, this is a real one. So we went back to England because of the weather. So when we got back to England, they anchored, and we stood on the boat for a couple hours, and then we went out again because they found out the weather was going to be good on the morning of June 6th.
Santillo's voice reminds us that history isn't just strategy and dates, it's heartbeat, breath, fear, and resolve. That night, every man was wrestling with his own thoughts, but all of them were waiting for the same order.
June 5th wasn't a day of combat, but it was a turning point. The short train ride, the climb onto the ship, it marked the moment they crossed out of safety and into history. The threshold.
And for medics, it carried a special burden. They weren't just thinking about their own survival. They knew the wounded would come to them first, and sometimes cling to them last. The weight of other men's lives were already pressing on their shoulders.
Next week, we're going to sail across the channel. It's June 6th, 1944, D-Day.
We'll read the minute reports from the day the 357th Medics landed in Normandy, under fire, under pressure, and under history. Don't miss it.
As we close out today's episode, we want to share what's coming next in our journey.
For the past 2 years, we've carefully restored and organized our grandfather's World War II photographs, snapshots he took as a combat medic with the 357th Infantry.
We've connected photos to dates, places, and events we're walking through in a series, and now we're ready to take that next step.
We'll be recreating his photos nearly 80 years later.
These images will become a photo book, pairing his wartime pictures with our modern recreations, showing what has changed and what memory has been preserved.
We'd be thrilled to have you walk this path with us. Visit rootsofdiscovery.me to learn more, share your support, or simply follow along as we recreate our grandfather's journey and preserve the history of the 357th Medics.
And if you enjoyed today's story, please help us reach more listeners. Leave us a 5-star rating, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. That support means everything to us, and if you have a World War II story in your family, we'd love to hear it.
Thanks for joining us on Snapshots of World War II. We're honored to walk this journey with you, one quiet report at a time.
Thank you for walking this road with us. The journey is just beginning. Bye.
Bye.